Hi there. Spring is coming up and almost 10% of adults have been fully vaccinated in South Africa. Plus, we were warmed up by images of over 100 South African firefighters arriving at the Winnipeg International Airport to help Canada's fight its raging wildfires. They held the flag high and sang as they arrived. If only news could be as inspiring. But we're committed to telling you everything you need to know about the week that was. So let's dive into your weekly news update, brought to you by Verashni Pillay and the explain.co.za team. First up is our take. The cabinet reshuffle explained. Shortly after sending out last week's wrap, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced a cabinet reshuffle that we'd all been waiting for. If you heard the news and didn't know what to make of it, we're here to help. A strong centre. Ramaphosa used the opportunity to build a strong political and strategic centre. As Carol Patton writes in the Business Day, in one of the best analyses we've seen, at the nucleus is a combination of new Finance Minister Enoch Gobondwana and Minister in the Presidency Mondli Gungubele. Together, we can expect them to drive economic reform and to think strategically about government's program of action in a way that has been absent from Ramaphosa's presidency until now. Along with other elements to the reshuffle, this means faster action to get our economy growing. The other big news is that Ramaphosa has the all-important intelligence services reporting directly under him. This after the cluster failed spectacularly to stop the recent lootings. If the shift in reporting lines sounds sinister, it isn't. It's normal in other countries to have intelligence services report directly to the president. As we explained previously, Ramaphosa was largely limited to the anemic ANC MP pool of talent because of how the list system works. That's a topic for another day. The cabinet, however, remains bloated. Ramaphosa must still play the ANC's game of rewarding people, etc. The background here is that the former minister, Tito Mboweni, never wanted the job, and while he was good at it, he was frustrated with ANC politics. There was some outcry when Gobondwana's appointment was announced because of a previous scandal that involved losing pensioners' money. He resigned back then and repaid the money, but the mud has been difficult to wipe off. But Gobondwana is a really good choice. He was previously in charge of the ANC's economic transformation and has clout within the party, which is crucial when it comes to finance ministers getting their colleagues to toe the fiscal line. Importantly, international markets know and like him. Plus, he's got sound financial ideas. He knows that dead socialist rhetoric will get us nowhere and believes in a developmental state balanced by a commitment to investor-friendly policies. All in all, the new cabinet puts us on an even keel. On to the big story now. Ramaphosa testifies at the Zondo Commission. The big story this week is President Ramaphosa returning to the State Capture Commission following his first appearance in his capacity as president of the ANC in April 2021, where he was criticized for being terribly vague. Ramaphosa's second appearance in his capacity as president of the country was hotly contested. His testimony is ongoing, but here's the important bits so far. Being deputy president under President Zuma left him with very little choice, but he ultimately chose to stay and fight state capture from within the executive. He says that being confrontational with Zuma would have led him to being fired and thus undermine the fight against state capture. I quote here, he says that, "Had I and like-minded individuals resigned, it would have led to the unfettered expansion of the state capture project," said Ramaphosa. When former President Zuma booted Nhlanhla as finance minister, replacing him with Des van Rooyen, he threatened to resign. The ANC Deployment Committee did not interfere with appointments to key institutions it merely made recommendations that its MPs make certain appointments. Ramaphosa claimed that the role of the ANC Deployment Committee should be seen positively as more women are in government as a result of its recommendations. He said that the party was blindsided by the Gupta's friendships with Zuma, admitting they could have done more to prevent state capture. He denied being complicit to state capture, but said it could well be that they were negligent. He admits rebuilding the state and recovering from state capture will take a very long time. As you can imagine, many of his responses elicited a collective eye roll from citizens on social media. But it was a grueling 2 days of long testimony so far. So, with Ramaphosa looking exhausted, at least he showed up. His predecessor is in jail for failing to do so. On to our briefs now. The failed defense minister has been is almost promoted to Speaker of Parliament. Hot on the heels of being booted from cabinet, outgoing Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, will fill the vacant position of Speaker of Parliament, much to everyone's dismay. She's effectively swapped positions with Thandi Modise, who Ramaphosa appointed to head up Mapisa-Nqakula's previous ministry in last week's reshuffle. Mapisa-Nqakula is emerging richer for it. Her salary as speaker is higher as speaker than minister, increasing from an early 2 million rands annually to now almost 3 million rands annually. Her nomination as speaker by the ANC's top six has been unsurprisingly unpopular with opposition parties and civil society for two main reasons. Her predecessor, Modise, was hugely popular amongst members of parliament across party lines. They saw her being fair and balanced in running of parliament. Secondly, her 9-year tenure as Defense Minister was marked by controversy, including the alleged abuse of state resources. Parliament set up a committee to investigate whether she received cash and gifts valued at 5 million rand from a contractor of the SANDF. Now that she's Speaker, the committee will have to present its finding about her to her. This will obviously present a conflict of interest. Mapisa-Nqakula was ousted thanks to her part in government's failed response to the recent looting. Afterwards, she downplayed the seriousness of what happened and publicly contradicted Ramaphosa's characterization of the violence as an insurrection. It's bizarre that she's now getting this position. Our regular Zuma Stalingrad update. Former President Jacob Zuma is meant to be facing charges related to the arms deal at Pietermaritzburg High Court, but being Zuma, he's managed to throw up two obstacles to the proceedings actually getting underway. The first in May involving questioning state prosecutor Billy Downer's impartiality. The second emerged on Tuesday when Zuma was meant to appear in court. Instead, the court received a letter referencing a mysterious illness that Zuma has apparently been battling for 18 months that suddenly meant that he couldn't attend proceedings. As the state put it, if he's been going on for 18 months, why is it now suddenly an emergency? Zuma was moved from hospital to a hospital on Friday for medical observation, according to prison officials, who did not provide details on his condition. Judge Pete Cohen on Tuesday granted a postponement to September 9, but ordered Jacob Zuma's team to produce medical report by August 20th. He also ordered the state to appoint a medical doctor of its choice to assess whether Zuma was fit to stand trial and give evidence. Zuma is still in jail, in case you're wondering, serving his 15-month sentence for contempt and awaiting to hear the Crown Court's decision on that one. So many cases, so little time. Now, celebrities are being weird causing a stink with their stinky confessions. Fans are incensed or maybe burning incense. We're not sure. Hollywood A-listers are coming out to reveal their bathing habits, and it's not pretty at all. It started when actors Mia Kunis and hubby Ashton Kutcher appeared on the podcast saying they do not shower every day and that until they can see the smell and dirt on their children, the kids remained unbathed. With that, a stinky Pandora box sprung open, and everyone from Jack Gyllenhaal to Kristen Bell came clean or not about their bathing habits. Some infrequent bathers say they wait for their biological sense to come through, while others argue that they're doing their bit to save the environment. In response, celebs like Dwayne Johnson and Jason Momoa and Jodie Turner-Smith made it clear that they bath regularly. The responses on social media have been hilarious, of course, from a column titled "I am begging celebs to bath" to racial analysis of white versus black people's bathing habits. Look, no judgment from us either way. We're just here for the memes. And the Phoenix attacks are to be investigated. There's been a raging debate about what exactly happened in historically Indian township of Phoenix in KwaZulu-Natal during last month's unrest. 36 people were reportedly killed in what's been categorized as an eruption of decades-long tension between black and Indian communities. Indian residents are accused of establishing community patrols designed to protect their neighborhood from looters, but which allegedly racially profiled and barred black people from entering the neighborhood, even if they lived there. There are also allegations of violence and even killings. So, we're pleased to hear that the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities is set up to hold hearings into the matter. This follows last week by a march by hundreds of EFF members to Phoenix Police Station calling for justice for the victims of the Phoenix massacre. The hearings start on 11 August at Durban's Royal Hotel, with Police Minister Bheki saying that 31 people had been arrested in connection with the Phoenix killings, and more arrests are expected. South Africa shifts on hate speech versus freedom of expression. A very important test of our freedoms was wrapped up recently at the Constitutional Court, but it kind of slipped under the radar. The case dates back to 2008 when Sunday Sun published a column by SA's former ambassador to Uganda, John Qelane, titled "Call Me Names But Gay is Not Okay," which compared same-sex marriage to bestiality. It rightfully triggered a flood of complaints to the South African Human Rights Commission for hate speech. What followed was a test of the country's conservative laws around hate speech. Qelane was adamant that the hate speech provision of the Equality Clause in our Constitutional Bill of Rights is vague and unconstitutional as it limits freedom of expression. His case worked its way through our legal system all the way up to the Con Court, who have finally decided on the matter. Qelane himself passed away last year in December. In a landmark judgment, the court confirmed that the column was hate speech, overturning a lower court's decision to the contrary. But the court also looked at the Equality Act, in fact, vague and overboard as it goes much further than the Constitution in outlawing speech that was hurtful. As you can imagine, that makes the definition of hate speech very broad. On this, the Constitutional Court agreed it has given Parliament 24 months to rectify the defect in the Act. It's a win for freedom of expression and our laws and processes. South Africa's latest low-fee bank launches as the industry gets more inclusive. South Africa is lagging behind of the continent when it comes to fintech. Services aimed at financial exclusion like mobile money are booming across Africa, but here we are pretty much continuing with our traditional form of banking. You may have also noticed when you traveled how much lower bank fees are in developed countries like the US, the UK, basically zero compared to what we pay here. But here there's more. But now there's lots of movement in the lower income banking market, with several low fee or no fee banks launching recently. Africa Rainbow Capital's Investments, Time Bank, and Discovery Bank. The latest bank is Bank Zero, which launched recently to little fanfare. We're guessing they're saving up big marketing budget of the bigger bank to keep fees lower. The good news is that all this fresh competition is forcing bigger banks to relook their offerings and to be more competitive. Now's a good time to relook your banking options. In international news, Zambia's important poll takes place today. Our neighbors in Zambia are heading to the polls today in a tight race between President Edgar Lungu and his opponent Hakainde Hichilema, who are facing off for the third time. It's a crucial election as the country is in tough economic straits despite its copper riches. Young people, who make up the majority of 7 million registered voters, are most affected. It'll take a couple of days to hear the results, but experts are expecting it to be close for an outright winner. Too close for an outright winner, which may lead to a runoff, another vote to break the tie. And the US withdraws from Afghanistan. Can you believe it? 11 September marks 20 years since the 9/11 attacks on the US. The country responded in part by cracking down on Afghanistan's Taliban, who refused to hand over Osama bin Laden. The US set up shop in Afghanistan, vowing to support democracy. 20 years and hundreds of billions of dollars later, they're giving up. US President Joe Biden's decision to remove US forces from its longest running war was a rational one for his country, but it's a bitter one for Afghans, as the Taliban hardliners are already quickly taking back control from the fragile Afghan government, leading fears of a new civil war. It's all the more sadder for what it might have been. In the 50s and the 60s, Afghanistan made steps towards modernizing women's rights before a cycle of bloody coups, invasions, and civil wars began. If you've read The Kite Runner, you might be familiar with some of its history. If you've learned anything, that democracy can't be forced from above. And China clamps down on karaoke. Who doesn't love a good karaoke night out? Not China's officials, who are clearly very thin-skinned. The Ministry of Culture and Tourism in China said that they are banning karaoke songs that may endanger national unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, violates state religious practices by propagating cults or superstitions, or which encourages activities such as gambling and drugs. The karaoke songs ban will be effective from karaoke venues across the country starting on October the 1st. Johannesburg, guess who's your mayor? If you live in Joburg, can you name who your mayor is? The latest answer is Jolidi Matongo. This week, the ANC and allied parties voted him in to replace former Jeff Makubo, who passed away last month. The opposition DA decided not to put up a candidate against him, as it's just a few months till the next local government elections. That's going to be a real one to watch as former DA Mayor Herman Mashaba makes a return, gunning for a return to the mayorship, this time under his own platform, Action SA. Meanwhile, Twitter showed itself to be a cesspit. Showed itself to be the cesspit it really is when Matongo trended for all the wrong reasons after his appointment, following unconfirmed reports that his father is Zimbabwean, with xenophobes calling on the ANC to remove him. The man was born and bred in Soweto. Shame on trolls. And a tragic loss for Amapiano. What a sad week for South African fans of Amapiano, the music genre known for its piano beats and cool dance moves. 5 people died in a fatal accident while traveling to Rustenburg to a gig. Amapiano artists like Kilakau, Mpura, together with DJs Tando Tot, Kanya Hadebe, and 2 others deceased. Rest in peace, magnets. That's it from us at The Wrap, a product of explain.co.za, simple news summaries for busy people. Remember to share the love and sign up for updates at www.explain.co.za/subscribe. Till next time, goodbye from the team.